Morning in progress. All right, so a couple announcements before we get started. We have a couple forms here that are pretty interesting. So if you're interested in attending Scale in I think a couple weeks, we have an interest form for that. If you guys don't already know, Scale is a Linux convention that happens every year, and FAST works with Scale through creating a CTF that's actually built by the forensics team run by Matt here on Zoom. And so if you're interested in attending the expo, I believe we can try and get discounts of some sort. So if you're interested in attending and you want some support with that, we could go ahead and fill out that form. Next, we also have our eBoard interest form. If you're interested in being part of the fall 2025 eBoard, highly recommend filling that form out. It should take you only a couple of minutes. Third thing on the list, third and fourth, we have actually a couple more events coming up in the next couple of weeks. Tony, do you want to talk about them?
So,
I think you're
so we have our Bronco Hacks annual event. So we're gonna be doing a hackathon in April, 18th and 19th. There's gonna be a couple of clubs working on it. You guys are working with us.
fast CSS.
Definitely there's fast CSS cheat codes. I know C is also working on it.
GD.
GDC, no, Game Development Club. I'm not sure about GDG. I'm not calling on it now. I'm sorry. I just genuinely don't know this off the top of my head. So yeah, Bronco Hacks, join it. It's a 2-day hackathon, 1-day hackathon. It's gonna be 2 days, 24 hours continuous hacking. So yeah, right, not hacking, but like developing, right? And then the last thing we have is a Squid Game, which I like to call, actually no, but so it's Squid Games, but it's gonna be like an event where you guys just have fun. It's gonna be based off the hit TV show Squid Games. So
No way.
yeah, no way, right? But yeah. You might have seen some advertisements around, but yeah, join it. So the what? That's the link for sorry, that's the interest form. And then the Bronco Hacks is the Discord link. So if you guys want to join that, yes. Yes, my bad. Oh, also, do you have purposely here?
I should, yeah, I think so. All right, sweet. So that's all for our announcements. So to talk quickly about our agenda, so we're going to talk about introduction to web exploitation, web vulnerabilities, and then we're going to be talking about a couple examples of web vulnerabilities that we think is the most popular when it comes to, I guess, understanding and also most apparent in like the real world environments. And then after that, we're gonna go through some labs and some other resources that exist. It'll be more or less casual on what we do afterwards. But that'll be the time for you guys to put, I guess, these skills into actions and to try and do some web exploitations yourself. So, and again, if you haven't installed Burpsy, please go ahead and do. This tool is useful for a lot of different exploits and will be helpful for doing like the different activities and challenges. So we have a couple questions here. First one is what is security and what is web? We've been talking about security for a long time, and so I think we have a general understanding of what it is. Web, on the other hand, depending on what you've done before, could also be a little confusing. So I wanted to make this a little interactive. Can anyone answer what is security? Yes. Okay, putting as many walls between yourself and an attacker. I think that's a pretty, I think it's a solid definition. One it has I guess the drive to like make something more secure and safer by blocking all like the holes and defenses. Anyone else might have an answer? Yeah.
Maintaining CIA.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, tried. Definitely one of the more bigger ideas of security and puts to paper more or less what we're explicitly trying to do. That said, can anyone answer the question, what is web? Tony, can you answer the question, what is web? What are web technologies,
I
Tony?
don't want to take the stage yet. You guys can.
Okay, Tony will answer second. Does anyone else want to answer what is web? Anyone on Zoom? What is a website, you know? Huh?
It's just a website.
So it's a website. What is that? What is it? Explain it to like I'm a 5-year-old, Tony. Well, what is a
When
website?
you go to google.com and you search up something,
Uh-huh.
that page that pops up, that's a website.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So for a website, you use a browser, you type in a URL, and you get like a cool page back, right? When I was before I guess college, I was really interested in like how this all worked because it's almost like a portal in a way to like a whole bunch of like content. And so it's really interesting about how it like forms. But after taking like classes and like doing research, it was really interesting to see like the whole client server relationship that websites have, where a client on a browser, once they put in a URL, there's a whole bunch of systems and protocols that goes by that allows a server to respond um, with a web response of some sort. So more or less, that's kind of like the basics of web. And a lot of the web vulnerabilities we talk about are founded by this client server relationship where the vulnerabilities itself are weaknesses found in the protocol that requires someone to go ahead and fetch a specific HTML file or other resource from a server that's remote from their own computer. So that brings us to web app security, which is the whole idea of finding ways to secure, protect our websites, different applications, as well as the APIs from various cyber attacks. I don't know if we'll talk more about APIs later, but APIs are also known as application programming interfaces, basically act as the gateways for users to request resources from a server. And so you could say that as like an entrance point or endpoint, these APIs can also commonly be attacked by threat actors because they allow for an entrance to the system overall. As Bryce said, we are applying the basic ideas of CIA into web applications and making sure that what are the processes that happen in these web apps are not only available, the services are not only available, the data with them isn't changed at all, and that uh, they follow CIA basically. Um, I put zero-day vulnerability in there just to mention for anyone who isn't aware with like security, but I think we all pretty much know what zero-day vulnerabilities are, and something that could also show up on different web apps as well. If you're working in a company and you guys have a web application that you guys are deploying, and all of a sudden there's a vulnerability that's found out, or it doesn't even have to be known, or sorry, it doesn't have to be unknown, but if your company finds out about it, then it could also be like a 0 day for the company. But there's also like vulnerabilities that exist from libraries or other resources used for web technologies, which could count as a 0 day vulnerability in that technology itself. You hear a lot about it here and there. I think one of the more recent ones was like I think with the polyfill library. I thought that was pretty interesting because I went into a website and I have Malwarebytes on my browser, and it immediately blocked the website because it detected that vulnerability. And I was like, dang, I could have got a virus. Thank God I had Malwarebytes browser extension. Not sponsored, not sponsored. Anyways, so like I said, we are serving basic static HTML files through the client server connection. And again, these files are accessible through different systems and internet points. So web application security gets really, really messy and complex. But at the core of it all, the client server connection is what determines everything. Okay, so now we're going to talk a bit about Burp Suite, and Tony's going to take the mic. Again, after we talk about the basic tools for Burp Suite and how different web app exploitations can be used through this tool, we'll talk about different vulnerabilities that exist and to be aware of.
Cool. Hi guys. Sorry, I'm gonna put it here. Yeah, purposely here. You do,
I
right?
don't, but I'm also
Okay. Wait, can I
wait,
use
I
that?
do, I do.
Right. Okay.
Chill.
So I've asked this already, but I'm sure like I think the only person here who actually has used it is Matthew, right? Anyone else use purposely? Anyone heard of it? Heard of it? You've never used it? In CL? Okay. Okay. So what did you use it for? Uh-huh. That's fair. Yeah, so I feel like Burp Suite is, I think it's relatively easy to begin, but it gives like there is a steep learning curve. I don't know if you feel that, but yeah. So today we're kind of just we're gonna cover some of the very basics of it. I think enough for where um You guys should. Oh, you don't have to do that. You can just. You don't have to keep the slides up. Yeah, it's okay. I got you. As long as you have burp suite, that's all that matters.
Okay.
Yeah. What the heck? Okay. So, yeah, right. So today we're gonna be talking about three main tools. Burp suite. Burp suite has a lot of tools, and it is community driven. There's a Discord server for this, which I know we all love. Which is really good for helping out sniff out web vulnerabilities and such like that, right? So a lot of them comes with like automated tools, but also there's a big aspect of it where you also need to understand how to use it, what the vulnerabilities you're looking for, stuff like that, right? So yeah, right. There's a lot of extensions for this. So whenever someone who's in this burp suite or who uses burp suite sees something that they don't have, they'll make an extension for this. They call it B app. I think it's called burp app or something like that. Um, so yeah, right. Yeah, and then also there's a lot of support with the admins that actually built this app. So like through the Discords, right? So it's really cool. For today, we're gonna be working with proxy, intruder, and repeater. Have you oh also I didn't see chat. Okay, it's fine. So yeah, so we're working with proxy, intruder, and repeater. Those are I'd say like the three things that you should know for Burp Suite before you actually get started with it. There's a lot of tools in there again, right? There's things like sequencer, and there's another one. There's a lot, sorry. I can't remember all of them, but yeah. So for starters, we have the Burp Suite proxy. So does anyone here know like HTTP requests and HTTPS requests? Like you guys are all familiar, like roughly familiar with it, right? Yeah, right. So the idea of a Burp Suite proxy should lift. What?
Just hug the mic.
Okay. So, the diversity proxy is basically just, how do I say this? It stands between the request and or the client and the server, right? So you guys are all familiar with a web full stack having a client and a server, where the client will request something from the server, right? Usually through HTTPS request, right? So yeah, right, because HTTPS is standard. So the proxy sits in between, which means that all the requests being sent from the client to the server can be heard, so intercepted, modified, or dropped, right? Which means that you're basically free to like alter anything that you send over, right? Here's a picture here that you can see. I'll do a quick demo about it in a bit. Oh, frick, my bad. You'll see here, you can see that we have a request here, which is get, and it's sending it to an URL, which is any URL. And you can see the request, right? It has a get account, like it has a get and a slash like my account. You have the host and all that, right? So if anyone's familiar with Postman, similar to that, it's a little bit more ugly, but it gets the job done, right? If you would do,
So for this example too, you'll be able to see it later, but when you type into a URL on like the Burp browser that they have, instead of immediately sending the request, you'll be able to see that request on this interface for the interceptor. And I don't know if it's a little small, but there's an orange button that says forward. If you press that, that will actually send the request to the server. So instead of sending it right away, having the interceptor will act as a proxy for you to be able to see your request, possibly make modifications, and then send it off to the destination.
yeah. Cool. So this also is used for capturing, so obviously requests and also WebSockets, right? So similar things like that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to, interrupt me. The next one we have is repeater, right? So sometimes once you're done, so once you have, like, let's say captured a specific request, right? You guys want to change it, you guys want to tweak around with it, make small changes and see the response, right? So that's the idea for burst feed repeater, right? I call it postman for bad people because you're basically it's basically postman, right? Because you're just sending requests and you're getting responses. It follows redirections. You'll see that sorry, it has a bunch of tools in there as well, but like at the core of it, you can just alter your requests, change it. So you'll notice how this is the same account or the same request from before. You're allowed to send it again. You're allowed to change it up, and you'll have the exact same requests every single time, right? And this is what I like to call the bread and butter because you're going to be spending a lot of time on here analyzing how the response looks like after every single request, right? How the server responds to it, if you see any errors or if you see any like success messages, right? So yeah. Yeah, right. And this also works for WebSockets as well. It's just that today we're more focused on HTTPS requests. So, yeah. And the last one we're going to be talking about is burp suite intruder, right? So this is where you're going to brute force the attack, right? If anyone's ever heard of password cracking, not like password brute force, things like payloads, this is where you're going to be spending your times on, right? Let's say you have some sort of a leaked password, you can iterate through that list using the burp suite intruder, right? In burp suite intruder, we have something called a payload, which is going to be where you're going to be iterating through your requests on, right? And a payload, which is my bad. The payload is the values that you're going to be iterating your requests with, and then your positions, which is where you're going to be placing these payloads on, right? So there are 4 types of attacks. And we'll kind of go through them relatively quickly. And so given some sort of a number of values inside your payload, so we'll call it V and the P, which is the positions, we have the sniper attack. And what the sniper attack does is it takes in one set of payload and it places each value, like each item, it places each item in the position one at a time, right? I'll show you in a little bit once I get burp suite up and running. And then, yeah, right. So basically it just goes through each value and places them one at a time in each position, right? And it'll change the value, position every single time and change the value every single time. So it'll be sending out V times P requests because, yeah, right. So each value, each position, completely iterate through them. Yeah. And then the next one we have is battering ram. This one just places, it places one payload into all the values, like all the positions at once, right? So that's why you'll have the V requests, right? And then last but not least, not last one, we have 2 more, which is pitchfork, which places each set of payload in its respective position, right? So we can have one payload for position 1 and one payload for position 2, and then it'll just iterate through all of them, right? Do note that the position has to equal to the number of payloads that you do place in. And last but not least, you have cluster bomb, which goes through all possible combinations and places them through all possible positions, right? So you'll have it's going to send a total of V to the P requests, right? So I'll kind of just do a quick demo of burp suite. Just gonna pull up some. Where's burp suite? Sorry. So here. How come I can't like split screen?
Oh, it's probably because like it's on Zoom. Oh, do you wanna wait? What do you want to split with?
It's okay.
The browser?
Yeah, I'll just split the browser. It's okay. Okay, so you'll see that this is how your browser should look like. If anyone doesn't look like this, please feel free to ask me. So yeah, right. So we're gonna open up a browser.
You should explain what the browser is.
Sorry. There you go. Okay, so this is your burp suite browser. So first of all, you're gonna have to open up a browser, and remember how we talked about the proxy. The burp browser just sort of acts as that proxy, right? It's able to listen to all the requests that comes in, and then yeah, right. So for this one, I'm gonna just use some. What's bigger? Actually, you know what? We'll use Heroku, the hacker box juice shop.
Sure.
So we just use some like random a simple website that doesn't like have a bunch of random requests. Sorry, my bad. What the? My bad. So we use the OWASP juice shop, which is a good, I guess, example. And then we'll kind of just quickly run through this, right? So okay, let's start with our proxy, right? So here, and then we'll see that we have this website, we have our proxy, right? It's currently off, so that means that every single like whatever we do right now, it's still gonna be fine, right? Like nothing's gonna be intercepted, whatever, right? We can turn it on, and then you'll see that every single time I click something that sends a request to the server, right? Let's just say, like we want to open or we want to log in, right? So this one, okay, actually, I'll talk to this. No, that one's. I'll show you. Wait, what?
Why did it go through?
What the heck?
Is
It's
that
crazy. Oh no, yeah, it is because.
Okay.
Sorry, that's because this is a client-side rendering.
Okay.
So notice how this is a client-side rendering, which means that all the values here. I'm gonna restart this. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna click on this and basically refresh this. No, it's not refresh. Back once again. Okay, see this. So let's intercept this. Then I'm gonna forward this button. Okay, so you'll see that it has a bunch of requests, right? It has get, and you'll see that right now the products are currently empty, right? This because currently the interface that you're seeing is cliently like rendered on the client side, but it still needs the website, right? It still needs the information from the like server, right?
What information?
So your images and your like data about the images, like the price and stuff like that, right? And you'll see it through these, right? So this is where you'll find the requests, right? You'll see that it has the methods, it has the direction it's going from, right? So you'll see that it's a request to the server, right? So what we can do is we can send this to the repeater, right? And we'll worry about that in a bit, right? So let's say we forward this, right? Once we forward this, you'll see that maybe this website will change a little bit. We don't see any changes. Maybe that doesn't access the and it doesn't access the like images and stuff like that, right? Products. So you'll see that this says products.search. Maybe this one does, right? We can send this to the repeater as well, and we can forward this and we can see what any updates. You'll see that now we have a picture here because it gets the products, right? You can scroll down a little bit and you can see that there's a bunch of products here, but we're also missing a bunch of stuff here as well, right? So right, let's forward some more and let's just keep forwarding this and until we see something change. Yeah, so
That's all the data.
oh, that is okay. My bad.
Because it might be because the window's smaller too.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. And so what we can also see is that now that we actually like intercepted these requests, we can go to a repeater that we've intercepted, right? You can see what we actually get, right? So if we send it again, right, you'll see that we get an okay, we get a success, and we get a bunch of data here, right? And you'll see that this says apple juice, descriptions equal to this, images equal to that, which is, which is how these images are getting rendered, right? So you'll see that like if we wanted to change this up a little bit, so maybe instead of a q is equal to nothing, right? We can say something like q is equal to, I don't know what's going on here right now. So we can just say q is equal to 20. Just mess around with this, right? You'll see that we still get like perfectly fine things, right? But you'll also see that some of the response values are changing a little bit, right? The apple that we used to have just no longer exists anymore, right? So like for reference, we can delete this again. You guys can see that.
And we're just using the Juice Shop app as a example, but you could just try this with any other website. Again, all websites work under HTTP, so you'll get basically the same behavior and relationship that we have with this website. So you could just play around with it. You could use this website if you want to. But just to explore like the relationship you have and like the tool itself with Burp Suite and getting familiar with it.
But like also do note that a lot of the websites do have like third party keeping track of like clicks and stuff like that. So you'll get a bunch of junk requests. So just note that when you're doing your proxy, right? And so now that we found like a point of like change, right? We'll see that like modifying the Q to something like 20 will give us, like a different value, right? You'll see that in the beginning we had an apple, but now we don't have an apple here, right? I don't know if you guys saw the request or the response here, but when Q is equal to nothing, you'll see that it has apple, right? So like this could be like when it comes to like attacking website, any sort of point of contact is a possibility for a vulnerability, right? So what we could probably do is we could send this to the intruder, right? And by the way, this probably has no like future vulnerability in here. This is just like an example, right? I'm sure all this is doing is just filtering out what's like possible, right? But if we do want to, like, what we can do is we can use an intruder, right? And we can place the payload here, so we can add a payload using this, and then we can start like we can just iterate through some numbers, right? So payload type we'll set numbers, right? And we'll just iterate through from like 1 to 20, and with a step of like 1, right? You start attack. The community version is really slow, and I don't recommend it. If you guys want, you guys can just build your own. But yeah. But this one, like again, right? It's built in. It comes with it. So yeah, you'll see that you have your status code. You get your response received. You get your length. You'll also get a timeout. I don't know if you're gonna see it here. It's really slow. What is this website? Not website. What is this Wi-Fi? But yeah. So you have this running in the back.
You might have forgotten the space. You need a space.
You don't need a space.
Like,
Oh, I think you might
looking
need a
at the
space. I think you might need a space. My bad, guys. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Alex, did you want to say something? I cannot believe it.
I don't know. Like just
Okay. I think it's just that the Wi-Fi is horrible. But yeah. All right. When the time comes, like, we'll talk a little bit about Courseware later, but especially through the broken authentication labs, you'll use a lot of brute forcing payloads. That right. So far, hopefully, I haven't lost any. You guys have any questions? Confusing? Alex?
I think we're having trouble with the connection. So if you're on Zoom, you could also ask a question through the chat there, and then we'll be able to answer it easier too.
Yeah. So
any questions regarding Burp Suite in general or other web things? I think one more thing to clarify is that the request itself is available through like the API. So I guess like the identification of the API. For example, this would be, I think, what is it? REST/product/search and like the variable queue. So that's an example of a HTTP request that gets accessed by the API on the server or for the web app in general. Just if that clears some stuff up.
Or basically or Burp Suite and like how I've been using it so far, we're just basically using it as a man-in-the-middle attack between the client and the server, right? So yeah. Any questions in chat? You guys have any questions? Let me know. Need to ask. Where's the I don't know. Oh, okay, wait. So this is API reconning. This is my fault for that. So a lot of times for websites, like I said, right, when it comes to web hacking, any point of contact is a possibility for a vulnerability, right? And so when it comes to API reconning, a lot of times what we're going to be doing is just finding out these points of contact, right? And it's through finding like endpoints, right? So things like API, index.html, right? Have any of you guys used GraphQL before? Worked with GraphQL? Know what GraphQL is? Does anyone know what GraphQL is? It's no? Okay. So GraphQL is one of the best example of API reconning because all the requests are through one endpoint, right? And so if you can find that endpoint, that's where you're gonna be attacking. You're gonna be attacking, like spending all your time on, right? All your attacks on, right? So, a lot of times the robots.txt file, is a good place to start on an openapi.json, right? These are files. For robots.txt is a file where they dictate which website, which endpoints your web scrapers can scrape, right? So because it dictates which one it can scrape, you can see a lot of hidden endpoints that you usually wouldn't see, right? So obviously it the robots can follow it, but you don't have to follow it because you're a bad guy. You can also check for endpoints as well. So usually a lot of the very common ones you'll see are /API or /v1, right? I took these APIs straight off Coursewigger, so don't arrest me, but /API is a very common one. I've also seen a lot of /v1s, so you can see something like /v1/API. But also if you know something like /API/Swagger/v1 is like a valid API call, right? You can also check the parent API or parent URLs, right? So make sure that /API/Swagger/v1/users, you can send requests that options, get, post, stuff like that, right? You also see here get, post, push, pass, put, patch, option, and delete are all options that you can do. Sometimes a lot of websites like to use what is that? Try to obfuscate their endpoints, but there's this common saying in security where obfuscation is not the same as security, right? Because just because you try to hide it doesn't mean you're good at it, right? So brute forcing is always a possibility, and you can always use this, right? And if you, by the way, the good thing with Portswigger, or not Portswigger, Burp Suite, is that they have a lot of extensions for you. In the case that you do want to in the case that you don't want to do this manually, I do think that it costs money though, because yeah, it's like $400 a year. I don't know if we have that money, but yeah. You can always try different data formats, so JSON, XML. We're all JSON's for REST, right? XML is for SOAP, but a lot of times, what is it? JSON, XML. You can also try GraphQL commands, right? But these different format will often lead to sometimes endpoints won't check for certain formats, which will allow you to bypass some sort of defense mechanisms, right? So yeah, right. Also hidden paths and also hidden query parameters or payload data, right? So this is a very special kind of API reconning. It's a little bit more advanced, but it involves understanding how post and get requests works and how the server handles them, right? If you guys are interested in it, I don't think we're talking about this today, but if you guys are interested, I can talk a little bit about that. So yeah. Go.
Okay, to talk about vulnerabilities, again, this is more related to cyber, so I'm just going to read off the slides. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses in a system, network, or process used to gain unauthorized access to, and perform malicious activities. Usually leads to insecure systems and applications where a threat actor could utilize these vulnerabilities in an exploit to take over a system. So we need various mitigation techniques to avoid the various different types of vulnerabilities that exist and to avoid the consequences of the cyber attacks that could happen. So we're going to talk about, I think, the top one of the 5 vulnerabilities we have. The first one is path/directory traversal, also called // So if you guys use the console, you guys know that cd ... is the command you use to go to the directory one directory back. This is very useful, but it's also used in combination with slashes to get specific files from different locations that are in like another folder that requires you to go behind a parent folder, for example. And so this, I guess, syntax could actually be used in certain web components, HTML components to access files from a server that's hosting a web app that you're not actually allowed to access. So, for example, here, let's see. Yeah. And usually happens because you insert like the // string inside a URL or something. So it gets interpreted as a path instead in the system. So for the example, we have, yeah, you want to talk about one?
Well, here's hosted a website before. I have like understanding of like how a website works. So the reason why the reason why this traversal technique works is because your server is basically a computer, right? And so when you're because all the components or all the files and pages are stored inside the folders, right? When these like a lot of times they don't check like because they don't expect someone to be in the middle and send a payload, right? So because they're accessed like normal folders, like how you would access files on your computer, you can use these slashes or directory traversal to access, manually access the files yourself. So yeah.
So an example here is fine. We have like somesite.com/page, and then we have a question mark, which is sort of like a query. Page equals index.html. But instead, I don't know if I updated this. In the bottom, we have some page equals to another site with malicious code. Actually, I don't know if I updated this example. This might not be the best one. Well, either way, inside the URL parameters or the places where you put the actual file path, instead of index.html, you could put .. how many .. you want to go to different file folders in the actual computer itself. Popular ones are like /etc/password to be able to get the credentials of the server system itself. Um, Something to note is that on a Windows system, an attacker can only navigate in certain partitions, but on Linux, you could navigate the entire disk. I think this should be a better example. In this image, you could see that in the URL, the attacker is putting file is equal to .. /etc/password. The server will interpret that, go through the file system, and then get the password and retrieve them back to the user. This could also be done through cookies as well. And in order to prevent these type of attacks, you need to validate the user input to make sure that they are not like a path traversal string. You also want to generally avoid user input calls when it comes to like any other system file calls or anything else regarding to getting files from your computer. You could also use indexes rather than direct file names. And mostly, I think the rest of them just play around with user input and making sure that the .. slashes are avoided one way or another.
Sanitization.
Sanitization, that's what they call it. Okay, so that was the first vulnerability. The second popular vulnerability we'll talk about is cross-site scripting. So, when I first learned about cross-site scripting, I was really confused because I was thinking about like bash scripts, but when it comes to web applications and cross-site scripting, we're talking about JavaScript. So cross-site scripting is when malicious JavaScript is injected into a web page. The attacker sends a web app with a script embedded on a browser to a different client. And because the user is authenticated, the defenses are withdrawn and the malicious script could go through. There are generally two categories, persistent slash non-persistent, or reflected and stored. The reflected XSS is when an injected script is reflected off a server. So you send the malicious script to a server, and then it sort of like bounces back in a way. Yeah, it immediate in a way. So this is also done through like social engineering. If you have someone click on a malicious link that has a script inside, that link will get bounced to the server and the malicious script will run. There's also stored XSS, which is the script, the evil script, is stored somewhere on the server, whether through a database or other storage device, and exploited through dynamic web input. So if there's a website like taking in comments, for example, where any user could submit like a comment that gets stored on a database, if you put in a malicious script, that script could get stored. And each time that script is requested and given to a client, that script will run. So that's pretty bad. And the image here is also a diagram where you see the user injecting a script. I think this is stored. Yeah, it's stored because it's stored on the database. Some consequences through this is that the user session could be hijacked through cookies, a page could be modified, and either you could also install like Trojan malwares, and it could also mess up end user files as well. Here's another example. This is more specific reflected cross-site scripting. At the bottom here, bottom example, you have a link, safewebsite.com, and then in the search variable, you insert the script. And then from there, if a user were to click that, they would go to the safe website and be authenticated on their safe website if they're logged in before. But then the malicious script will run, which means that the attacker could get you to send different requests as yourself in a way. And there's a picture for that to show how that works as well, where it kind of bounces back. Other prevention systems for this, turn off HTTP trace support, which allows for cookies to be stolen. Sanitization, which is honestly probably like the #1 way to block most web attacks, is really important. There's also other things you could do like anti-patterns. So when you're creating like your web app, there's certain patterns you might want to avoid, such as reliance on like HTTP interceptors and thinking that they'll solve all your problems. You really got to make sure you sanitize and make sure that whatever you're taking in from a user doesn't have a malicious script inside. So, okay. All right. Do you want to do SSRF first?
I think we can do the client side first.
Okay. Yeah, and then you could explain what server side is too. All right, so the third vulnerability we have is CSRF, or cross-site request forgery. This is sort of similar to cross-site scripting, but not really. For CSRF, you're tricking a victim into submitting a malicious request, similarly to XSS, but the user is generally authenticated, and I guess how do I explain this? There's also like two different types where there's also like stored, which is similar, but there's also login as well. So I think let me see if I could do an example first. This might help. So for a CSRF attack, we have a top example, like a post request for like a bank transfer, right? The account is Bob and the amount is like $100. In the bottom there, we have a HTML form that basically sends $100,000 to Maria. We have a input type, input name with the name account, and the input name amount there. So this form will essentially send a post request to whoever runs the script to send $100,000 to Maria. Now, on the bottom here, we also have documents.form.submit, which will automatically submit this form and run this request. Yeah, so there isn't any direct JavaScript involved in CSRF attacks, but you're still forcing a client or another user to make that request, basically without their consent. Yeah, and the bottom picture at the bottom right shows you a better example where the user who runs this form, either through like social engineering or other tactics, is able to get through the server, but it also runs the runs other requests without them knowing. And so executed, it could be done by executing like it could be executed through like an unsolicited email with HTML content that a user might not be aware of. It could be planted in a script on a page. So if someone loads like a evil page similarly to like the email, they might end up running that form, which gets sent automatically. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So yeah, so in order to prevent these type of attacks, you want to avoid session cookie dependency because cookies can be stolen. Depending too much on them in a web application could be dangerous. You want to avoid overtrusting multi-stage transactions. And you also want to avoid HTTPS over reliance. Just because it's secure in itself doesn't mean it'll solve all your problems. And vulnerabilities like these could still form. So it's really important to monitor your web application and to make sure that specific requests are you're not able to make specific requests. But even in CSRF attacks, because the user is authenticated, it's still possible for them to run this script. So I think the biggest prevention here, which I think I forgot to put, is to just avoid learning to not fall victim to social engineering attacks. When we hear about preventing against security, we hear a lot of people about don't click like the link, the link is bad, don't click it. This is one of the reasons why we highlight a lot of importance on it, just because there's not a whole bunch of ways you could, I guess, prevent against certain attacks like these. So, any questions before we move on to our vulnerability? Yes. You want to explain?
Just like redirection. Yeah, so like I think our school website's the best example of this. What's it called? Um no. Wait, I actually want to show this. I was so mad. Okay, I'm like actually
Yeah,
fuming about our
you're
school.
ranting now.
No, I'm fuming about our school because our Bronco One card. So um so who here knows about the Bronco One card? Okay, right. So for starters, right, I'm gonna do this, but because I'm sure, actually, I don't even know if I can log in. So the thing is, okay, so if you guys use it, you guys can log into it right now. So first of all, your cookies are stored in the URL, which is really goofy, right? Which means that, like, if you send me a link, like logged in, it'll go, right? But if you guys try and buy something, you'll see that it redirects you to the Atrium website, right? And so when what it's saying about don't trust multi-stage transaction is that oftentimes throughout these transactions, like whenever you get redirected to a different page, you'll have your like a lot of times we're assuming that nothing is tampered with, but that assumption basically kills, right? Because you're assuming that no one's changing the request, no one's changing the values, right? And so for a while, I think I can talk about it now because they patched it. For a while, what you could do for the Bronco One website was that you could change the amount so that like you could change this because the Cowboy Pomona has two stages for this, I guess, right? So if you have a Bronco One card and you have the website that takes the payment, right? So your Bronco One card website handles the logic in adding like funds or whatever, and the Bronco One payment confirms that your payment is being due, right? So what happened was when it sent over the amount to the Atrium website, that value wasn't checked, right? And that was a big issue because if the value from the previous one, it was different from the secondary, right? Like the not previous. So if the value from the sorry, the one card was altered during like before it was actually paid for, that means you can change the values to whatever you want, right? So you can make it like $0, $, whatever, right? So I think that's one of the best examples of don't trust multi-stage transactions. The school did a relatively good job because they made sure that I think a part of it was checked, but still, right? Just don't like you can have multi-stage transaction, you just can't trust it because you're not sure what happens in between. Does it make sense?
Uh,
Okay.
like,
Hmm?
but like in that case, like the service that has the correct direction, it
Mhm.
would be better for it, like for them also like calculate the cost.
Yes, it'll be beneficial for them to also make sure that the cost is correct. All right, does it make sense? And make sure that the things weren't tampered.
Yeah, similarly to like user sanitization, it's like you want to sanitize the input on the client end and also like on the server end. Like anywhere that user data could be in like a different place, it should always just be checked, you know. And that's what we're kind of talking about. Don't rely on multi-stage transactions, is that you just want to sanitize everywhere. Like don't
No, not
assume.
sanitize. You gotta
Or-
check. And there's
Okay.
sort of like that's like there's a lot of math sometimes with this as well. Yeah. My slides are boring because they don't have any pictures because I don't know what pictures to put. So yeah. So server-side request forgery. So the two attacks that we talked about, cross-site scripting and server-side and CSRF cross-site request forgery, they were both client-side issues, right? Or vulnerabilities. We'll be talking about two more server-side vulnerabilities. Does anyone know what the difference is between client-side and server-side vulnerabilities? It's relatively simple. Your server side attacks the server, the client side attacks the client. So you'll see that the cross-site scripting and CSRF are all delivered through like not the browser, sorry. They're all delivered through like phishing or social engineering, right? These are all like issues within the server, right? So if any kind of damage done here can either be permanent. So a lot of these can be permanent, right? So we'll talk about SQL injection in a bit as well. But server-side request forgery allows you to access data that you're not supposed to access, right? Whereas like those client-side requests, client-side client-side vulnerabilities allows you to impersonate someone, right? So you'll see like CSRF steals cookies, cross-site scripting executes code, right? So server-side request forgery exploits trust within an infrastructure because oftentimes infrastructure isn't just one server, one client, one server. It's going to be a client sending something to a server, which sends it to another server, right? And a lot of times you'll see these kinds of redirects posted within the body, right? So consider an application that uses a post request that calls a backend server with the following body, right? You'll have something like an API is equals to something like this, right? So this is relatively normal. You'll see this a lot in a lot of websites. But the issue is, right, a lot of times websites don't check for, like they don't check these API links that they send within each other. Sorry. They don't check, they don't check the links that they're like redirecting to because again, for security like implementations, right? So what a lot of people will do is we can exploit it using something called server-side request forgery, where we're pretending to be something that we're not, right? We're pretending to be an internal server that we are not. So what we can say is we can access like something like, oh, I'll be a local host within the server and I'll try to access the admin. And because the server sees that it's local to itself, it'll give you the permissions to access the admin and return the value, which allows you to access server side information that you shouldn't be access to, right? So a lot of this comes from just blindly trusting blindly trusting the client side requests, because for security, right? Also, a lot of times these happen because a lot of servers need like a backdoor, right? They need to make sure like in the case of an emergency, some like database issues happens, some big issues happens, right? They need a backdoor to quickly fix it, right? And so that's also why you'll have these sort of like holes, right? And these holes are supposed to be like hidden, but again, obfuscation by security is not security, right? Just because you hide it does not mean that you're going to be hiding it well, because a lot of these people are bored with life and they'll check for everything, right? So the way to prevent it is relatively like it's a little bit different, right? Because you can try and sanitize it, but there's not a lot of like point to it, right? Because you'll need a lot of times you'll need to have your the client send a request that sends another request, right? So what you can do is you can use whitelist or blacklisting, right? Ensure that only certain domains are trusted and able to access this information, right? And ensure that these domains are also well guarded, right? Don't just use a blacklist, right? Don't just use a blacklist because a lot of times servers or people can use a DNS rebinding. Who here knows what a DNS is? Okay, so a DNS, do you know what? So DNS is like the backbone of the internet, right? They transform a name to an IP, right? So a lot of times what they can do is they can use the name version instead of the IP version or vice versa, right? Because what a blacklist does, they only check for the, whether or not, that DNS or that IP address is there, right? But yeah, right. So blacklist can be used, but make sure make sure that you're not only using blacklist. Sorry. And also properly set up network permissions, right? One of the best examples of security is least privilege framework. This works for both people and systems, right? So make sure that the things that you don't need access to, like a certain endpoint, doesn't get access to this until they need it, right? So least privilege framework. IP addresses like localhost or private networks should also not be allowed to access it, right? Unless you need it, right? So again, because there's no backdoor, in the case of an emergency, things get lost, you will have some potential time loss. Okay. And then the last one, this one's relatively popular. I think a lot of people have heard of SQL injection. And this is because SQL code is dynamically ran in the server during the runtime, right? Is anyone here familiar with SQL? Or have any here written SQL code? Like, yeah, right. You'll see that a lot of times you have like select all, like the basic one is select all. I'll show you an example of this in a bit. But this one's really simple, like to prevent, but doesn't get prevented a lot, and it's just input sanitization, right? Make sure that your code, like the things being injected in here, or your inputs aren't going to be code that you can inject, right? So yeah, right. And SQL injection basically just means any kind of database actions can happen, right? Like read, writes, deletes, drops, stuff like that, right? So it can completely mess up your database. So here, sorry for the red text, my bad. So consider the following SQL code that is used to retrieve a user, right? I'm using Python because that's what I like, but you guys, this topic applies to everything, right? So select all from accounts as users where users.username is equal to username and users.password is equal to password, right? So if we insert something like, so if for the username, we put something like apostrophe dash dash that then comments out the rest of the command, right? And you'll see kind of like where that becomes an issue, right? You'll see that it'll give us an error, right? So like you guys can kind of start to see how this could be exploited, right? Especially if this is going to be used to as your main way of authenticating a user, right? So let's say instead of saying users.username is equal to, like in this case, right? It just sees that users.username is equal to an empty string, which is going to give you an error, right? But we don't have to set it equal to an empty string, right? We can set it to something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of the examples we'll do, what happens is that you get the login form, for example, that has the username and password. And what it'll do is that they'll take whatever string you put inside those columns and directly paste it into the SQL command. This is dangerous because, as Tony said, if you put certain SQL syntaxes, the string that gets replaced in the username will alter the entire sequence itself. So with the comment for in like the second example, putting dash dash as like a comment will remove the password check and only enable the what's before, and it also allows you to place anything after. So a common one is the syntax or 1 = 1, which are you gonna talk about?
Or true. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, or true, which in like a Boolean case, or true, if you or anything with true, that will automatically be true. So that's an easy way for you to get access to SQL I guess requests that you normally shouldn't be able to.
Yeah. So like the previous one, right? Like for example, right, without using or true and without using like anything else, right? You just using oh, and also we'll show you guys one of like the labs which kind of like restricts like the keywords. But like for example, right? Instead of using something like sorry, what we can do is like, let's say I know your account username is called Riggy Ticky Tong, right? So I can just say where users.username is equal to Riggy Ticky Tong, and then we'll have an apostrophe dash dash, and then it doesn't matter what the password is because it's not checking for it, right? It will only return the values that it finds, right? Which in this case will always be true. Username, we know that for a fact that username exists, and it'll return that username, and therefore we have access to that specific username, right? Or that account, right? And it's similar to like again, right? With that, like with this injection, right? You're basically commenting out the rest of the code, which means that you're free to access or put in whatever you want, right? A lot of times when we do or true, the admin account will pop up. Does anyone know why that's the case? Like think about it, why that might be the case. No, because like I don't know if you guys know this, but for SQL, they're sorted alphabetically. So whenever whenever you say or true, it will return all the values, right? And usually the one on top is going to be admin because admin starts with an A, right? So a lot of times your admin will be the default, right? So like things like that, right? And also you can use things like order by and limit to also refine your search, right? And again, you can inject scripts within scripts, right? So instead of this, we can have another nested script inside here, right? So SQL commands and injections get really complicated, and like the fix for it is surprisingly simple, and it's just sanitization. We'll talk about this in a bit. Which here, yeah.
Just to also clarify if it wasn't if there's anyone new to this, but SQL is used by like a database, and usually when we use a SQL injection, it's to get data from the database itself compared to like other vulnerabilities where you're launching a script for a server to complete the request. We're directly accessing the data from a web application that has a database connected to it. So usually it comes in the form of stealing login credentials that are stored on a database or other data that might be stored there as well.
So these are two frameworks. One's Python, one's JavaScript. And how to handle properly. So you'll see that the unsafe version, we'll just add it in and we'll assume that the input is fine, right? So in this case, there's no sanitization, and as a result, we're just gonna get issues, right? Same with JavaScript, right? But the safe version is relatively simple. It's just using the sanitization like built in by these database query languages, right? So cursor.execute, if you place it as a tuple or tuple at the end, and use a question mark, it will just automatically sanitize it, right? Similar to JavaScript as well. I think they use a list as well, right? So it's just reading the documentation and making sure that you're not inserting like poor code, like you're not writing poor code, right? I think actually just the correct answer to this is just a skill issue because like it's just read the documentation, right? Sorry, does anyone have any questions about this? Cool. Also, SQL injection that goes really deep, right? Like if you guys really want to like learn the execution and like the commands, it goes like really deep. And it's honestly really fun if you guys like puzzles. And yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that was the 5 vulnerabilities that we talked about. Um, for the rest of the time that we have, we're gonna try and do some more active things, and some activities. I'm gonna actually go ahead and share the link to the slides so you guys can access the slides and things like that. You can log into my computer. So give me 1 second while I do that real quick. So I'm gonna stop the share.
So yeah.
So there's 3 links that we'll have. They're each different resources and websites that you could use for practicing these web hacking, web exploitation, and they all have different skill levels to it as well. So, oh my God, Discord is updating. This is so sad.
I'm a Portsquare fan, so like all the things I learned are from Portsquare. So yeah.
Yeah, there's also tutorials here and there. So lots of resources on the internet for you guys to check out. But we'll go through a couple of them together and yeah, we'll go from there.
We can start off with the OWASP. We can start off with the OWASP shop actually.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to do the Pico?
No, Pico's path reversal. I want to show them the SQL injection.
Right. So on the workshop side on our Discord, I put in the workshop link that you guys could check out. So if you need access to the links, you guys could see it from there. Let me know if you guys are able to access the slides.
So we can demonstrate like a vulnerability. Like I think I can try and demonstrate some
Oh, wait, go back to the slides. Because I also have some examples, some CTF stuff.
Okay.
So we could also do that. These are the ones we did yesterday.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then these are the ones that I kind of played around on my own.
Okay. We can do one for each.
Yeah. So yeah, you
So-
can do what you want to do first. So
Okay. So I'm gonna show you guys some of the labs. Not gonna do all of them because that's impossible.
lot.
Yeah,
A
but
lot of labs.
one of my favorite one is OS Juice Shop. Or not favorite ones, but like one of the ones that I like. Oh, this one's already like done a few, but like OS Juice Shop does that low key. Can I just go through?
It gives you like credit, random credit.
Yeah, it does. It does that. It's kind of funny. I'm gonna clear cookies. Where's the cookies again?
I think it's in storage. Go to the
Where's storage memory? Not
no,
memory.
no, no. Storage.
Where's
Oh wait,
storage?
I forgot it's from
Application.
it's different on Firefox.
I'm gonna clear cookies here.
No more cookies.
Wait, what?
Take my cookies.
Wait, which one's the one that this one's Facebook, this one's Google, this one's what do you have? Reddit?
I don't know. I never logged into Reddit.
Oh, I don't know which one's the cookie for this. Low key an issue. Oh, you know what? It's fine. We can just go to Courseware. Right. I'm stupid. My bad, guys. Wait, what happened? Where's your Courseware?
Are you guys able to see the slide on the Discord? Yes. Okay. That's chill.
It's gonna be a little confusing. Okay, so we can try some of the juice shop challenges. I recommend you guys do this in Burp Suite because a lot of the things you're gonna need some of the tools in Burp Suite, right? A lot of things you won't need it, some of them you will.
We could do a script songs.
Sure.
So, similarly to like a lot of the client side stuff that we went over, user input is a really big feature, a really big indicator for whether these vulnerabilities happen or not, because that way we could kind of inject our own malicious things into it. So in terms of like the website itself, the OWASP Juice Shop, there's nothing too crazy about it. We have like a bar here for login links about that, yada yada. We have the logo or the home screen logo, choose language, and we also have this search button. So this search button actually acts as a user input. And I think what a really simple one that the people put in here is you could do a simple I think yeah, is it XSS? Yeah, so cross-site script into the user input. This input the search bar doesn't have enough user sanitize or like input checking. So you could do something like alert hello here, just like a JavaScript command. And if I press enter, oh, that's failed. Let me try again. Did I mess up the syntax? I don't think I'm missing. Wait, this worked yesterday, I swear. Oh, I think I know what it did. Let's try again. No, why is it not working? Dang, it's not working. Did I do it? I did it yesterday and it worked. Could have sworn that worked yesterday.
Wait, what's the script? All right.
I think we could. Oh, and also just for reference, the juice shop itself, this if you go to the scoreboard, there's a whole bunch of like listed challenges that they have. Alex, do you have a question? I think you're unmuted in the Zoom.
Oh, also, if you guys search online, a lot of these cross-site scriptings and SQL injection, stuff like that, there's a cheat sheet for all of them, and you guys can just use those instead. Um, there's a famous phrase, I think it's like, I ain't reading all that. Yeah, I'm not memorizing all that either, so yeah. Where is it?
I could have sworn I saw it, dude.
Oh, I think it's JavaScript. I think.
No, it was in like the search bar.
It's okay. Here, we can just do something else.
Nah, okay.
It's okay. Um, oh, I think the best example of this, one example of this we can use, so login, right? What we can do is we can just do this. If we do something like this, right? We just make sure the password's not empty. We can try logging in, and you guys can see that we logged in, and we're anonymous. We don't want to be anonymous. We want to be someone, right? So we're going to log out. I'm gonna try logging as admin. An admin generally is like like it's like a built-in keyword. Not built-in, but like I don't know if you guys use like Microsoft SQL. If we log in,
This is an example
of SQL injection. Let's see. CA. I'll give invalid email. Let's see. Something like this. Why does this not work again? Why am I anonymous? Dude, what is going on with shop? Bro, lock in. shop, you gotta lock in. No, wait, what the heck? Fine.
Are you already anonymous or admin?
About the admin email. Not what the email is. In here, we're just doing. I'll do it in person because this one has a clean slate.
The browser?
Yeah, it's a browser. It's like because it clears the cookies, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did one. I don't know what I did, but I guess I just did one. Deluxe fraud. Obtained a deluxe fraud. Shit.
Yeah. For some reason, the juice shop
That's why you guys
gives you credit for random challenges.
No, it's because you should be doing it on your own like device. You guys should like download the Docker image and whatever, but I don't have time for that. I ain't got time for that. But
Does the Docker image work?
Docker image
I
works.
tried the
My laptop
the
works.
phone.
My laptop works. But yeah. It also allows you to like access like challenges that are otherwise dangerous. So let's just show.
Yeah. So the actual hosted website, which is hosted on Heroku, it has some stuff disabled because they don't actually want you tampering with like the system. But if you get the either like the Docker image or the repository, though I think the repository is bugged. If you have a local instance of the juice shop, which you guys could Google and then find the instructions for, you could access all the other vulnerabilities that you're able to access.
Oh yeah, I guess what we can do is like because it's anonymous. So this is kind of where like you're gonna have to scope a little, right? So we know for a fact that the password isn't checked if we use a SQL injection, right? So we know here, I'll write it out. Is there like do you have Notepad? Okay. So yeah, right. My bad, gang.
Delete everything.
Oh, okay. Wait, what is that? Do you need it?
No. Oh my God. It's from last semester.
My bad, gang. So we know for a fact that if we do something like this, right, we have something along the lines of select all from database or like account where users is equal to. Oh, can you guys not see it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So what the fuck?
Congratulations.
Okay, so we're gonna be talking about the SQL injection right now, right? So we know for a fact that if we do something like this, right, and like it's bypassing or it's working, where users is equal to something like this, right? We're checking for like where we know that the command is gonna be like something like this, where users equal to that and password is equal to password, right? So call something like this, right? So what we know is something like this, right? So when we like, so what I'm assuming is going on right now is if we log in, if it's equal to empty or like if it's equal to an empty one, because like this is all gonna be sent through a query, right? I'm sure they use something like JavaScript, but I don't know the sequence, the code for it. So it's gonna look something like query, right? I'll call it query. Code doesn't matter, right? Understanding the basic concept works, right? So we know for a fact that if this like returns 0 or it returns null or none, right? What's gonna happen is it's gonna create a non-account, right? So we don't want this to return none, right? What we can do is do something like this, right? So what we should be doing, or not what we should do, we want it to return something, right? And the best way for it to return something is by giving it like a value at the end, right? So we can say something or true. So this will always return something, right? So or true. Or I don't know if that's the correct syntax. I'll just do or what is it or two, I don't care, right? So we run this and we log in, and you'll see that now we're actually using admin, right? We're now an admin. And the reason for that, again, like I said, right, is that this will return all the values, right? And it's ordered by ascending or like descending alphabetical order, right? Which means that usually admin sits on the top, right? We can go a step further with this.
Can you just write down this statement?
Oh yeah.
So instead of user,
What do you mean?
so instead of user, it's like you just put like the or true statement.
Or true?
Actually, never mind. Don't worry about
Wait,
it.
oh yeah, oh sorry, yeah. I get what you mean. So now in this case, what happens is the rest of this gets commented out. We get or true, right? I don't know if it's capitalization doesn't matter, concept matters, right? So or true, right? So we can go a step further and we can do something like this, right? We can say something like, again, similar concept, right? That comment out, or 1 is equal to 1. And then we can do something like order by. And then I'm gonna assume that it's something by like users, right? Order by users. I'm gonna copy this in case it's wrong, right? Order by users. And then we can say something like ascend or descending, right? I think I don't know the correct syntax for this. You guys gotta bear with me there. What's the syntax? Order by it's right. So is it descending?
Yeah, these.
Okay. Right. So we can try this. Oh, sorry, it's not users, email. So we can do something like by email, right? Copy this just in case it's wrong. Log in.
Let's log into Google.
Oh my bad.
Log in, Tony.
Log in. Oh, log in. My bad, guys. Log in. Log in. And you'll see that now we're anonymous. Okay. So maybe so maybe we don't want that. Maybe we want to try no. Oh, maybe it's because oh we broke it. But maybe it's because it's null, right? And the fact that it's null, it's you know, again, there's different ways why that might or might not work. So if we click on this, we get issue. The data argument must be yeah. So it's oh yeah. So see how the value is null. This could be because that's just how they treat it, right? So like maybe order by when you order by descending, null is first, right? We can try something else, right? And again, right now that we have the general understanding of what the query is, or not users, it's gonna be email, but yeah, right? So we can mess around with this, right? That's something that you can do. Another thing that we can do, we can go through the scoreboards as well. Let's try some of the other ones, right? Improper input validation.
Probably do one more.
Yeah, or we can just yeah.
I just want to show them the Pico CDF stuff.
You can do the Pico CDF actually. Yeah, do the Pico CDF.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Or just do your thing first.
That's okay. We can. I was just messing around with this. We can do a Pico CDF.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we might return to this one, but there's also other ones that exist too. Other activities that we thought would be a good fit. So I can't. I hate Zoom. Okay.
Do you need my laptop?
No, it'll be fine. So for the lab examples here, this is off of the Portsugar labs, and they have a whole bunch of labs regarding different vulnerabilities, and you could check it all out. I think, for example, we have a path traversal one. I think we should be able to do this.
Yeah.
You guys could check the other ones on your own, but they give you like a lab environment to use and a tab.
I like the Pico CTF one.
Yeah, I think it's good too. So
lock in.
Okay. but see if it loads. So this one is you're trying to find a path traversal in the website here. I don't know if I remember I can do this thing, but like I don't know if we mentioned we could put path traversals in like the URL for things. So what I personally like to do, I like to inspect and see what elements are included. So we got a whole bunch of HTML things going on here.
Use Burp Suite.
Or use Burp Suite.
Use Burp Suite, guys.
And I think not where it was specifically. Yeah. So we have a image right here that where the source is /image query file name equals 16.jpg. So with file name 16.jpg, it's locally looking for that file. And so what we can try and do is actually go ahead and edit the document here. So instead of 16.jpg, we could do like, I think it's / something, and then etc/password.
I think there's one more /.
There's one more.
I think.
Let's try it, and then click off, and yep, and then it says we solved the lab. I think the actual information, I forgot where it's like, where it actually points it out. I think you need Burp Suite. So when you re-put in like the image, it'll go ahead and request it again from the server. And if you intercept it with Burp Suite, it'll give you the actual information. And if you look at, I think this is what I used Wireshark for instead of Burp Suite.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, it's what I used Wireshark
so
to look at the
extra.
HTTP request. In the request itself, the body will be the information with whatever's in etc passport. So you see like root and other admin, or not admin, but root accounts and other accounts on the server. So
What the heck?
yeah,
It's crazy.
I mean the same thing.
Yeah, but it's like
Just packets.
that's like extra work for nothing. Okay, so
It's just
what?
never mind.
Yeah, I think the best example was just the way you do this, or you can do this, is you just intercept this, a few details.
Oh,
You view the details, and then you see how product ID is equal to 1 here. We know that we're accessing the first product. Yeah, so this is the one that we're trying to target, all right? Send this to repeater. What you can do right now, we don't need the rest of this, is you can mess around with this. You can see that if we request 40, it says no such file. If we do something like 43, does it give me no such file? It says no such file. Maybe 48, I don't know. We're just messing around now. Okay, but what we can do is, like he says, right? So .. etc/password. How many slashes is based on brute force. The only reason why I know this off the top of my head is because I did this lab like 4 times already. And if we do this, it says done. The hell? Okay, yeah, there you go. And it says your password files all here. Right.
yeah. That's what it returns. So easy way you could see a path traversal vulnerability in action. So that's one of the labs that the Portsugar has. There's other ones that you could see here. I think in the last resource we have is PicoCTF.
You have a login for this?
Yeah.
Okay,
So PicoCTF, actually don't know. Actually, you log in.
Bruh.
PicoCTF has a whole bunch of CTF questions, not for web exploits, but they do have a web exploit section in there that offers some pretty important. You don't know your login? That's crazy. Are we creating a new account? Actually, oh wait, I remember my password.
Bruh.
I remember.
Crazy work.
Crazy work.
Oh wait, we should wait.
Which one
We
should
get
we
them on
do?
the gauntlet. Get them on the gauntlet.
No, don't get them
Get
on.
them on the gauntlet.
Okay.
It's so fun. I love the gauntlet.
Is why is it not showing?
Search a gauntlet. Because you're in forensics.
Okay, so one example we could do is the web gauntlet. It's just a series of SQL injections you can try and make.
Yeah.
So if we go onto like the website, they have like the actual rounds here, and they also have like a filter. So in this case, in your username and password inputs, the or string is filtered, so you can't use or. you have to find another way to get through the username and password in terms of like finding an SQL injection. So if you guys want, we could do that for a little bit. You do need to make a what is it?
Pico CTF.
Pico CTF account.
Okay, actually, yeah.
Or we could just try it right now, for example.
We gotta do this one live. We gotta do the second one.
Second one? No,
We gotta do this
no,
one
we're
live.
not. We can't.
No.
We can't even.
Yeah, we can. Wait, lock in.
No. Okay. Okay. So we'll just do the first one. So does anyone know what we should put in the username password? Username place. Done it a couple times before. Should be pretty straightforward in a way. We're not moving on until someone else.
We can just log in. Wait, just do a login first.
Oh, yeah.
Do a login
Oh,
first.
because it shows, right?
Yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
So this actually helps a lot, and it shows the actual command being used.
Yeah. So you see the SQL syntax there. So there's a lot of different ways you could also comment. Do you want to talk about different?
Oh,
Actually,
yes.
we'll do it in the next
Yeah,
one.
we'll do it in the next one.
So, again, can someone answer what is like the general syntax we use for a comment? The dash or
No, it's dash.
dash.
Close enough.
So again, we'll just try what is it? I think admin here and then apostrophe dash.
Passwords, whatever.
Password. We might have to put in the password. It doesn't.
No,
or it might not let you.
Yeah.
So
So-
okay, but now we're on round two. So basically, what happened is we logged in as admin, and then we commented out the rest of it. So select all users from admin is going to give you admin. Now you have admin privileges. So in the round two, we have some other things comment out. So unfortunately, dash is one of the things that's comment. So we can't use that trick anymore. So we have to find something else to get past that. Do you want to explain that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of code, or not code, a lot of languages have multi-line comments, and SQL is one of them. So the way multi-line comments work is SQL multi-line comments. We'll be specific, and it says SQLite. Let's say SQLite. Yeah. And the comment for that is just that, right? And so we can, so it's slash apostrophe. So similar to the previous one, right? We still just want to comment it out, right? We're not allowed to use this, right? If we use the same payload as before, see that it just doesn't work, right? It says it doesn't work because, like it works, but it doesn't it's filtered out, right? So what we can do is we can use a slash asterisk, right? And what that does is it comments everything out, right? And you're probably thinking like, why not just do that all the time? Because a lot of times we only want to comment out the starting query, right? So password has to be not zero. And what we can do is we can do the same thing. So we'll do admin apostrophe.
And with this, you actually don't have to close it back like what you would think in a normal language. If you just have an open multi-line comment, it will just comment everything else out.
Right. And you can see it here.
Something useful to keep in mind.
Yeah, you can see it here as well because it says anything except for that, which means it just comments everything out. Which is kind of interesting. I didn't know that, but and now it says that, but it's like the same thing, right? You can just do the same thing, right? Because they
Can I see the filter? What changed?
oh, so you're supposed to use like less than or greater than whatever and sign in. Oh, just kidding. Admin. Sorry, I forgot to close it. What the hell? 1 second. Gotta lock in, my bad. Okay, there you go. So GG. What? Oh shoot, wait, I closed it. Oh shoot, I closed it.
You closed it?
Okay, like round four. Round four is similar. So we ideally we do something like this, right? But we're not allowed to use admin anymore. So what we can do, so what can we do?
You remember?
Do you remember?
I remember.
Whoa,
You remember?
wait,
Oh,
stop.
this guy doesn't remember. He did it last time. Okay,
I
so
forgot.
another thing you could
Fucked
do, because SQL is similar to like other languages, you could apply like different quote unquote like language principles. And one of those principles is concatenation.
Oh, right, yeah.
String concatenation. So admin itself is banned. We can't put in the string admin, but we could take two strings and concatenate them into admin. So if we have AD apostrophe and the the SQLite concatenation symbol, which is dissimilar to just like or, but it's just two pipes. And then you have a second string min that will combine in the SQL string to be admin, which bypasses the filter, which is just one word. Yeah. Now I don't remember this one.
For the last one. What was the last one?
Oh, I think
Oh,
it's just the same one.
one.
Yeah.
They didn't. Yeah.
So I think for the last one, you could do stuff with. Oh, I guess union is the command for the.
No, but like they only check for union. They
Okay.
don't check for it.
So, yeah, you could just do the same thing here.
I think so. Yeah.
No, I got the first one.
The previous round, they wanted to use the new command instead of doing the symbol string command.
Wait, sorry, what?
The previous round, they wanted to use new
Union.
command.
Yeah.
instead of,
Yeah. I
And
think
then
so.
if you reset the filter after doing that, you get the CTF
Yeah.
flag at the bottom. So that's just an example. There's two more ones which I assuming are more advanced. So with just SQL injections itself, it could get pretty complicated. And so but there's a lot of resources out there for that. So just an example to show you guys what that's all about.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in doing it, you guys can also do some yourself and then we can walk around and help you guys. Yeah.
Yes, I think that there's a couple that we found that were cool.
There's a lot of really
oh,
cool ones on
yeah.
Foursquare. I love Foursquare. Because that's where a lot of stuff from.
So this is also one that exists. This is called logon. You're trying to log in as Joe, and see what happens in there. I think we'll go through them, but I'll just want to show all the examples. I think what we'll do is, does everyone have an account for Pico CTF by chance? Yes, okay. I think we'll go through a couple examples. They're pretty fun, and we have like some time left. So, I mean, it depends on what you guys want. I think this is not a bad idea. Is there anyone else who wants to like look at the other resources that exist, or is going through Pico CTF okay? Anyone on Zoom? That is true.
Like a group discussion.
Group discussion.
Also, a lot of times, like we didn't talk about this, but a lot of website, because I feel like this is very basic, like very basic. But a lot of times websites just don't check anything at all, right? So like, let's say you're logged in as like username and like you're logged in as user. A lot of times they would just store your user as a plain text and they just won't check it at all, right? The same goes with like cookies. And the same goes with like a lot of things, right? A lot of websites don't check things. And all that, like the only thing you actually need to change sometimes is just either the cookies or like you can just intersect it with Burp Suite, right? There's an example of that. I think the one that we just worked on is a good example of that. Or the logon.
Yeah.
The logon's a good example of
Yeah.
that.
We'll do these four just for fun, and then we could probably wrap it up. But the problems that we kind of worked on were where are the robots, logon, forbidden paths, and SQLite. And these are all based off of the vulnerabilities that we talked in the slide. So if you want, we'll spend like a couple more minutes for you guys to play around and work with that. Wait a few minutes, do one problem, wait another couple more minutes. They shouldn't take too much time. So I think we should be fine. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I remember. What? I remember.
Yeah, logon.
I remember. Oh, it's crazy.
It's around the East Coast, where the robots.
Yeah. There's also a lot of pizza. I think we'll give the rest to it probably. But all fun. Huh? So that's all about. Do you even have the why? I don't, but it doesn't matter. Sit down. No. It's two-seater here. So being recorded. Sorry, I'm so not serious. Okay. I'm gonna walk around and stop. Yeah, I should probably do that soon.
Yeah. You should go though, like just for Cypher. And they're being there.
Yeah. We're around like 15 minutes. I think what is it? Okay. I personally recommend either SQLite and Logon. I think those are pretty simple and fun for the time that we have. And robots. Most people already done robots. Fuck. Which one is this one?
Yeah.
I don't remember this one.
What?
I try it.
SQLite? You can try it.
I just forgot what it was.
You can just try like basic.
Oh, yeah. That's just basic.
Is that an easy one or is that a hard one? A medium one. That's a medium one.
No way, that's medium. I just put in a regular. So for the robots one, I think most people have done it, but as Tony said earlier, you could do slash robots on a website to gain all like the different paths regarding, I believe, web scrapers. I forgot. I still don't understand it fully, but
Robots is for the robots that crawl your website.
yeah, web crawlers. Okay,
So it tells you what you can and can't use.
yeah, so that's one place that could be hidden. So if you go to the website and do slash robots, you'll see the flag, I believe. Okay, so SQLite will also show it here. I think we did it just now, but simple SQL injection here with the comment allows you to allows you to log on. And so it says the flag is in plain sight, but from like the visual standpoint, you can't see it. Sometimes, or I guess for like HTML, you could hide different components, different things. So to truly see everything on the screen, you would need to go ahead and inspect it. And then from there, we see that there's a hidden component, paragraph component with the flag itself. So something to look out for, especially as a developer, the inspect tool is like very much your best friend, but it could also, it's an important thing to keep in mind when you are navigating websites in general. Okay, so that was those two. So forbidden paths is also interesting. Website files live in user share Nginx HTML. Nginx is like the web server, so it makes sense that this would be like your file location. And the flag is at flag.txt, but the website filter is absolute paths. Can you get past the filter to read this flag? Let's see. So in this case, I guess if you didn't have not previous knowledge of path reversals, you wouldn't be able to put like the root folder as an input. And so as we would mention earlier, we're going to use .. to be able to get to the root of the directory. And I think this one's just 3 flag.txt, and then that's where the password is stored. So there's the flag for that. Again, pretty simple examples, but it really helps with like the visual side of just being able to see more or less the actual web exploits in action and what they might look like on a simple user client. I think logon is one of the more harder ones, but it's still pretty fun. And it shows you why certain web features aren't as safe as you might think it is. So if you, for this one, we have to log on as Joe or find out what the Josh, what the, I guess the website is hiding from us. So it's a little vague. We'll go ahead and spend some time. I'll give you guys a couple minutes, and then we'll kind of talk about this one together. Huh?
Why am I so fat?
You're just hungry. Not you when you're hungry. Okay. Me too. We eat that. Is that Jason? Jason? I was there.
I don't know.
You can hear me. I know. Quick hint for this one. Just the same way we inspected like the components through the inspect tool, you could also inspect a lot of other things as well. I think some of the things that are included are like the network, so we see what requests are sent from the client to the server, vice versa. Um, what else? There's like some other debuggers one.
This one's easy with Prep Suite.
Everything's easy with verbs.
Yeah.
But you don't need it. So if we actually, who's actively working on this right now? Okay. Are you doing this one right now? Okay. I'll wait a couple more minutes then. We have a lot of time.
Wow.
Nothing. Hey.
Yours has cheese on it. It has these.
There it is. I think I'll wait like 2 to 3 more minutes. That should be enough time. I think it's mentioned by Tony. The inspect tools on the browser offer like the same. You could look at the same stuff either through the inspect tools or like through Burp Suite itself. So this one you don't have to use Burp Suite, but if you're familiar with the tool itself, it can help you automate a lot of stuff too. Something to keep in mind.
Just a huge one.
Burp Suite and Burp Suite.
Prep Suite later. Prep Suite later.
Is anyone able to get it yet? No? Do you guys want more time or do you guys want to like see it? Oh, I think one of the hints are helpful too. So for the hint, for those who want it, it's the doesn't seem to check anyone's password except for Joe's. So on other accounts, it seems to be fine. Like if I log into a random account, let's say no flag for you, I'll be able to be logged in, but that's pretty much it. So maybe that'll take you somewhere. If not, I think I'll give like 2 more minutes play around, but of course. Why eat crust when you can eat pizza? Pizza, 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 pizza. I'm telling you, Pizza Little Caesars has the best like we call it price to yeah. Price to pizza. I don't
The best cost.
know like best pizza per cost. Quality per cost.
Okay, well the quality's as and the price is like as.
Quality's mid. Price is low.
How much?
The ratio.
How much is pizza?
No, I told you all this is a 45.
I mean, 6 pizzas.
Yeah. Like
Six
six pizzas for like Domino's like at least 65, $20.
Okay, but pizza at Domino's is better. Like it has more.
Maybe. I don't know. It might. Whoa! To be fair, I think we could agree that Pizza Hut is.
No, I like Pizza Hut.
You like Pizza Hut?
I like all the
Cardboard.
pizza.
I would have that for like my school lunches in high school.
Okay, but
Then-
the school lunches are wrong. Like the school lunches did the Pizza Hut with dirty. Like low key.
I'll stay from the source. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was not from the source.
That
I
was from the
refuse to
source.
believe that's from the source.
That's from the source. Okay. I think I'm gonna go reveal the answer. So for this one, if we log into Joe and if we do anything else or put anything for the password, it won't allow us to sign in, but any sign on with anything else works. So as I mentioned before, we could use the inspect tools to look at other things. And one of those things is actually the cookies that I stored. So we have like a password cookie and a username cookie just stored there. But again, anything stored on cookies is visible as well as editable. Edible, I believe. Edible. Eat the cookie. But here we have a cookie named admin and it's set to false. If we happen to type in true, that cookie will save as true. And if we refresh it, we get the flag. So we're logged in, I guess, as an admin in this case, which I'm assuming that's what Jill was.
Wait.
So that's how you get the flag in here. What are you trying to do?
What happens if you change it? Just change the username. Where's the cookies now?
It's gone.
What the?
No. What do you mean change the username?
Why don't we just change the username, Joe?
You could, but then it would do the. Oh wait, maybe you could do the same thing. Actually, don't know.
Or oh wait, that's crazy. Automatically.
No, it doesn't work. Oh, because the password wrong.
What?
Password wrong. I don't know.
Or
Anywho, yeah, that's how you get the flag for that one. Okay, so those are just the examples we have. I hope they were somewhat interesting. And again, if you want to learn more about web exploitations and web vulnerabilities, I would say that these three links are like a really good place to start. There's a lot of resources on them and a lot of different tutorials that you could learn off of. So if you like what we did today and you want to learn more about it in the future, highly recommend Portfolio Juice Shop and Pico CTF. But other than that, I think that's pretty much what we have for today. Thank you guys so much for hosting today's thank you guys so much for being here for today's workshop. Thank you for Tony and CSS Club for helping out with today's workshop as well. So if anyone has any other questions, then you guys could ask, but that's pretty much it. Thank you guys. I'm gonna go and pause the recording or stop the recording.
That was fun, guys. Thanks for putting this on.
Thank you.